Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Wishwell Farms. My name is Jason, and in this video, I will be demonstrating how we hook up our drip irrigation for watering all of our warm season vegetable crops that we plant on raised beds that are covered with black biodegradable mulch. A lot of it has already been hooked up last week, but I'm hooking up another section today and thought I'd show you guys how I do that. All right, this is my well pit area where I irrigate from. I know it's a mess. It looks terrible right now, but this is about as simple of a setup as you can get. So here's my well. I hit water at 50 feet, and it's an artesian well. That's why I have this little spout coming off the end going into a tile that leads down to my creek. 3 gallons a minute, 24/7, 365. If I didn't have that spout on there in the wintertime, it almost busts off this cap because it freezes solid in there. So I have a line coming off my well casing underground to right here. It's about 3 foot deep. And as you can see, I got water leaking from my gate valve underground. It's not bad, so that's why I didn't dig it up again. I've had to dig this thing up several times over the years, and I thought I had it fixed. It just needs a new valve put in. Anyway, it works. I'm not gonna dig it up right now. We're gonna turn it on, and I'm gonna take you out to the field and show you how I hook up some drip irrigation. So I just turned this to open up the gate valve. Now the water is coming up out of this little 2-inch riser and filling the blue hose. This is called a lay flat hose. It can handle high pressure. This right here is for draining this. So there's a valve down there I can open, and that'll drain the water out of this in the wintertime so it doesn't freeze. I have a 2.5 horse pump that gives me 33 gallons a minute. Now with that size of well pump, I'm only able to irrigate like 10 to 15 rows at a time. So I will irrigate in blocks. Like right now, I only have 8 rows turned on. I think we'll go out and check it out. I have low flow irrigation tape, drip tape. So I'm gonna let it run for usually 5 or 6 hours. I'll shut those off and then open up another block to irrigate for 5 or 6 hours. So for those of you who may be new to my channel or just happen to stumble upon it and don't know the first thing about vegetable farming, I'm gonna show you what drip tape looks like that we use to irrigate underneath our biodegradable mulches on top of our raised beds for watering our plants right at the root level. So this is a raised bed plastic mulch layer. It lays conventional, traditional plastic mulches and biodegradable films, which is mostly what we use. And up here are 2 rolls of drip tape. So this is what drip tape looks like. It's a plastic material that has a drip emitter every foot. And this gets laid underneath the mulches right into the raised bed with this machine here. If you are interested in learning more about this machine or wanting to see it in action this spring, I will drop a link down in the description box for you so you can check out that video. Before we head down to the field to get started, I wanted to show you some of the basic supplies that we're going to be working with here today. So this is called oval tube. And this is what the actual drip emitter is going to be plugged into. So we use this little hole punch to punch a hole into that plastic tubing, and then we can pop that in, and then that drip tape I was showing you will slide on the end of that nipple and get locked down by this little lock collar, and then we can turn it on and off with this little blue valve. This is called lay flat. This can handle high pressure. This is what we carry the water to the field with from the well. So directly coming out of the well, you saw that blue line. This can handle the high pressure to deliver the water to the field, and then it goes through a pressure regulator. Now the reason we have a pressure regulator is because this line, this oval tube, is not made to handle high pressure, and neither is drip tape. So this will be plugged into the line with the drip tape coming off the end of it, and if it's too much pressure coming through, it can blow your drip line. If we ever happen to find a leak or a tear in the drip tape in the middle of the row, this is how we repair it with one of these couplers. We just cut the bad spot out of the drip tape and then screw that on each end, and that takes care of the leak. This is just a 1.5 inch coupler if we ever need to join 2 pieces of oval tube together. And then we lock it down with hose clamps like these. And then I usually stick a pressure gauge in my line, so I know I'm not feeding the drip tape too much pressure, because these do go bad from time to time. And if it is not working and the guts are out of it, it basically does nothing to regulate the pressure. And I can see that by this gauge jumping all the way up to high pressure. So important to have a gauge in your oval tube. So here's all the parts and supplies I need to get the irrigation up and running. Let's head down to the field. So you can see the blue line is now pressurized. And I have a T down here. And right now it is shut off going out to the main vegetable field, because yesterday I was irrigating my seedless watermelon. So I got 10 rows of seedless watermelon out there, and you can see they have vined off the plastic and they're filling up the patch quickly. They look beautiful. So we're going to open up this valve, because I want the water to go out to the main field where we're getting ready to go work. And we're going to shut off this one. Now this black thing right here is a pressure regulator. This hose can handle high pressure, like 60 PSI. We don't want 60 PSI to go through our oval tube to our drip tape. It can't handle near that much pressure. So this reduces it down to, I think, about 11 PSI. So we got that shut off. Now the water is filling the blue line all the way out to the field. So right now the way I have it hooked up is just for irrigating water. For those of you who are familiar with fertigation, that's what this is for. This is called a Mozzie fertilizer injector. So I will hook this end up here, and then I'll unattach that and attach it here. And it basically just works off high pressure and low pressure. I'll shut this gate valve so the water is forced around that, and it siphons up fertilizer through this tube. So it's a pretty simplistic way to inject fertilizer into your irrigation water. A Mozzie fertilizer injector. And I'll show you how all this works a little later in the season when we have it all hooked up and injecting fertilizer. So we just came from the barn up there where my well pit is. The water travels down a blue lay flat all the way to here, where I have another T. And right now it's going through this pressure regulator into the oval tube. So right here at this T, I can also open this gate valve and see the water pouring out. I'm going to be putting another pressure regulator on this side and carrying the water to the end of this patch about 150 feet away. And then we'll be able to turn on the irrigation for watering these 4 rows of winter squash and that random trial row, that's the 5th row over. All of that over there has not been planted yet. That's all broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower that's getting planted next week. So I don't need to have it up and running yet. All right, let me go show you what we're watering here. Oh, I have another T right here for my 2 sides of my fields. So we're irrigating this section up here right now, all the way to the road. And we're gonna be shutting that off in a little bit and turning this one on to take the water this way up to over the top of the hill by the woods. I have 6 rows of cantaloupe that we need to get water pumping to today. So because of this brutal heat wave we're experiencing right now, I've been watering everything every other day for about 5 or 6 hours. And if I don't, the soil below the plastic or below the biodegradable mulch will get dry fairly quickly. So that's why we need to get water on those melons, and I'll show you what we're irrigating up here right now. So right now the 4 rows of tomatoes are currently being irrigated, 2 rows of eggplant, and 5 rows of bell peppers and beets. So I'm gonna shut all of these off, and we're gonna turn on the next block up here to irrigate all the cucumbers, pickles, and zucchini and yellow squash. All right, that block is shut off, and now we're gonna turn on the next block. Oh, I forgot about the 2 rows of seeded watermelons. They're starting to vine off the plastic. We'll go ahead and turn them on too. There we go. So I'm currently watering 10 rows. I could probably do up to 16, but because I don't have 2 blocks of 16 over here, we're just doing like 8 or 10 at a time. If you're wondering why the drip fittings that I just turned on and off down here are not plugged right into the blue lay flat, it's because of the high pressure. And it's so much easier to attach the drip fittings to this low pressure oval tube. All right, I'm ready to get this irrigation hooked up and finished because it is hot and I want to get out of this weather. So from that little 90-degree turn I have over there, this section right here has no holes in it because I didn't have vegetables here last year either. Well, I had some green beans here, but no raised beds that I needed to irrigate. So here's the existing holes from last year. I'm gonna pop a drip fitting into each one of these holes all the way down to my cantaloupes over by the woods. Then we'll turn the water on, build up pressure, and then we'll hook up each individual drip tape line to those yellow and blue irrigation fittings that I'm popping in the holes of the oval tube. Got a bushel basket here full of drip fittings. So I just gotta walk down the row and pop all those in to the holes. Then we'll turn the water on. Got a little bit of a twist in this hose. I'll have to straighten it back up after we get some pressure in here. I just finished putting all the drippers in the holes. Hopefully I didn't miss any. We'll find out here shortly because I'm turning on the water. There it goes down the line. I don't have the end cap on yet because I want to flush it out. Let's go see what comes out the other end. The water's going to beat us up there. I see it climbing up the hill. Oh, there's one I missed. Shoot. We'll fix that right now. Oh, there we go. You can see the water coming out of that drip fitting when I turn the valve on. All right, let's go plug off this other end. Oh, we got a bad valve there. It's cracked. See it leaking? So here's cantaloupe planting number 2 right here. All right, you can see the water pouring out the end. Looks nice and clean. Let's get this end cap on. I should have brought out my cordless drill with a little socket on the end. We're completely pressurized and ready. Check it out. Ready to hook up the drip tape. I didn't bring a water bottle out here with me, so I got a homemade drinking fountain right here. All right, we're gonna start right here on this final row. So first I wanna make sure I have my oval tube put where I want, down along the rows. And it doesn't have to be directly across. You can angle the drip tape just a little bit. I'm gonna cut it right there. And I like to turn the water on just a little bit because if there's dirt back in here, inside this little plastic cap that's gonna screw down over the drip tape, that water will kind of back flush out of the line when I stick it on there. See how it's shooting back in there? Slide it all the way on, tighten down that little plastic cap. Oh, we got a bad one. I just noticed it. We got to replace this one. All right, so we're going to pop this out, put in a new one. There we go. Turn it on a little bit. Slide the drip tape in and tighten it down. There we go. I'm going to leave them all off right now until I get all 6 of them done. Then we'll turn them back on, drive to the other end and tie knots at the end of the drip lines so they can build up pressure. All right, this row here did not have an existing hole, probably because last year I probably had a drive trail in this area, and that's why there's not a drip line. Every year is a little bit different. Sometimes the oval tube holes do not match up with the following year. So here's our drip line. I want my hole and drip fitting to be right here. So this little handy dandy tool can poke a hole. A lot of guys will just use an old drill bit, a short drill bit. It's a lot easier than this, but I don't have one right now with me, so we're just going to use this tool. There, I got my hole. Pop in the drip fitting. Turn it on just a little bit. Pull out my drip tape. I want to cut it about that long because it's got to slide over this nipple all the way back to here. Slide it on. See how the back pressure is shooting water up inside that clear plastic cap? If there's any dirt or junk in there, that'll clean it out. All the way back in there, and then I hold my finger and thumb squeezing the drip tape over that nipple as I screw it down. I don't want it to turn on me. I want it to stay right where it's at with the drip emitters facing up. Crank it down a little bit, and there it is. Critical to get this water going today, not only because it's hot, but because these are young transplants that were just put in a week ago, and they're not well established to have roots down in there finding moisture down deeper. You know, their roots are kind of shallow, just now coming out of that root ball. So they can dry out pretty quickly. So this supplemental irrigation will help them survive and thrive. I pulled on the drip tape too hard and stretched it. There we go. It's starting to sprinkle out here a little bit. You probably can't hear it, but I can hear it hitting the plastic. So we got one little leak right here. You see that? Something sliced the plastic. And this is a goof plug. It looks just like the end of one of these drip fittings. So I'm going to poke a bigger hole in there and then shove that goof plug up in there, and that'll stop that leak. All right, let's go ahead and turn these 6 rows on. Well, you can hear the rain coming down now. It's still just a little sprinkle, but it's really noisy when it hits the plastic. Woo! The rain actually feels cold, but it feels good. All right, looks like the water has made its way down here on these 2 first rows and the 3rd row. See it coming out there? Still hasn't made it to the 4th, 5th, and 6th. Oh, the 6th one just started running. So I just tie a knot in these. I don't put any kind of flush valve on the end. I think it's a waste of time. I did that for many years when I first started. I don't think it's necessary. Whoa, that water's hot coming out of there. Oh man. So that water flowing down through there is bringing all that heat from the plastic to the end. It is hot, it feels like a hot tub. So I tie 1 knot in there and it'll still find its way through, so I put a double knot, or 2 knots in 2 separate spots. There, this water's starting to cool down already here. The flies and mosquitoes are out back here by the woods. 1 knot and 2. And now the water can't really get out. If you're wondering why I don't use flush valves, because it is nice if there's ever dirt in the line, they can flush out whenever you get done running the water and the pressure is let off. The valve's open and any water existing in the line, if there's junk in it, will flush out the back at the end here. But I do it in my greenhouses, but I don't think it's necessary out here. The water coming out of the well is always crystal clear and clean. There's never stuff in it. Now, if I was pumping out of a pond or something, or a creek, and had to run all my water through filters, I would probably want flush valves down here, but pumping out of a well, I don't think it's necessary. This works just fine. And final row. I like to get the water to come out the end and run down the line to clean it up. Sometimes it's covered in mud and dirt. There we go. 6 rows of cantaloupe being irrigated. Well, that little shower didn't last long, like 5 minutes. You can see the droplets on the plastic. Yeah, it wasn't much. So I will irrigate these 6 rows and the cucumbers, pickles, and squash up there for the next 5 hours, maybe 6. And then all the crops, most of the crops that are going to be planted here are just about ready. We'll be putting those out next week. We got more cucumbers and zucchini, 2 more plantings of zucchini and cucumbers, and 1 more planting of cantaloupes, and another planting of tomatoes over there by the corn. Now that we have water pumping everywhere out here in the field, the vegetable crops will be very happy. Well, there you have it, folks. A quick, simple rundown of how we hook up our drip irrigation to all of our vegetable crops here at Wishwell Farms. If you have any questions for me about anything I showed you here today, just drop me a comment down below. That's a wrap on today's video. As always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and I will see you all again next time down on the farm.